Okay.
So I'm going to hit record. Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Ads team offsite in Q1. We are really happy to have Laura Stack joining us. Laura is a famous chef with a lot of media coverage. I'll let Laura start soon to cover more details and to inspire us. It's your turn, Laura.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hello, Houzz. Great to have you in my house. Chef Laura Stack here, Kitchen TV, where we like to stir things up. Welcome to my home in Portola Valley. I'm glad you could join us today. Sorry for that little technical difficulty. I think we got it sorted out now, though. Everyone can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Very
Okay.
good.
Excellent. Okay, good. So today's class is called Cuisine. And it was a class that we did a lot last year. The idea of the class was we had no idea what we were going to buy in the stores. We had no idea what was going to be available to us. So the class was built on the things that we already had in our refrigerator. And I'll go more into that as we're going along today, cooking our 3 recipes and showing a few quickies along the way. I just wanted to ask first, is anyone cooking along with class today?
Yeah, I'm in my kitchen.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so that's good. That changes timing. Fong, make sure you hit record. I think he did that.
Yes.
If we do any other classes, I just want to let people know that you can either cook the whole meal, you can cook part of the meal, right? You don't have to feel like you have to do everything. And I encourage you to cook along next time if there is one. And thanks for those folks who are cooking along. My style as a chef is plant forward. It is the trendy thing. Everyone's plant forward. Your kids are probably plant forward, or you've been reading about plant-based. Plant forward to me means, it doesn't mean that we throw meat out and we don't eat animal products. It just means that we think about plants first and we incorporate meat and animal products into the meal, which is what we'll be doing today. You know, meat is not my enemy, but it is not my muse. There is so much more you can do with plants. And hopefully today we will turn you on to some new stuff. If I mention any classes in class, that means that there are many different things we can learn. We could talk for a long time. We have a short class today, it's an hour. So if I mention classes, that means there's more information that you can either look into or for next time. And then also questions are good. I think the way that we're doing this class is questions will be put into the chat box, and then Feng will say the question to me, or if you want to, you can unmute yourself and ask a question directly. Things like I have an allergy to, or I don't like that ingredient, what's a substitution, are all good classes to have. And lastly, we want to say feedback is good. So please pass along. You've got my email. Should you have questions after class, and also just let Fong know what you thought about it. We appreciate that.
Cool. So Laura, just to check, you want people to interrupt you in the middle while you are cooking, like if they have questions?
Well, you can if you choose, and I will either tell you I can't answer that now or I can. So, you know, if I can answer at that moment, I will. Sometimes in the kitchen, you know how that goes.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Right.
Cool. Since our group is not so large, so everyone just feel free to unmute yourself if you want to speak.
Exactly. Please, we're here to have a good time. And so looking back, now we've been doing this more than a year. So quarantine is a little bit different than what we did when we started. But I have to say that when quarantine started, I thought I was going to be cooking more. And I mean, I have been cooking more, but I felt guilty that I wasn't baking bread like everyone else was baking bread. And I felt, you know, there were special projects I thought I should be doing more of. And really what happened during quarantine was no different than it is usually during the week. I wanted food that I could make fast and that's healthy and delicious. And I didn't have to think a lot about. And then I did special projects. I did a lot of fermentation. I did a lot of sprouting. So if you were one of those people that were feeling guilty that you weren't one of the bread bakers, you are not alone. Often what we found during quarantine was just how to make our kitchens work better for us. And that's what I spent a lot of time thinking. I had all these condiments in my refrigerator, and yet I didn't know if I was going to be able to get, for me, tofu, seitan, maybe for you, who knew if there would be beef or, if there would have been a roasted chicken, we didn't know. So the idea was that we had to take the ingredients that we always eat, the foods that we always eat, some kind of protein, some kind of carbohydrate or starch, potato, pasta, and then some kind of vegetables, and bring them together with whatever we got from the store, and then had an ability to be able to season it in different ways. So that's what we're doing here today. You may have noticed if you look at the recipes that there are, I often say, protein of choice or vegetables of choice. And that's because quarantine or not, we have no idea often what we're going to, one, want to have for dinner, two, what's going to be in our refrigerator when we take that step towards making dinner, and then three, what the stores will have. So this class has actually turned out to be a good class even beyond quarantine, because it teaches us more about how to be more flexible in the kitchen and how to use what we already have. You might consider it to be like freestyle cooking is a good way to think about, I'm going to approach my recipe with many different options and adjust it according to what's available to me. Now, with those three main ingredients, protein, carbohydrate, vegetable, starch, vegetable, I want to bring out 4 qualities when you're cooking that are really important to focus on, because it will help us to enjoy our food more. And they're all under the auspices that variation causes us to eat more. Variation causes us to eat more. That's so important. I'm going to turn around and say it again. Variation causes us to eat more. The junk food industry knows this. That's why there are 10 flavors of Doritos. I eat the nacho cheese Dorito, but it doesn't taste like the cool ranch Dorito. And so when I eat the cool ranch Dorito, I like that, but then I want some new change up. So the nacho cheese, and I just keep eating, because variation in flavor is one way to keep our brains interested in the process of eating, right? It gives us, it's like variation in flavor, which is one way that we can have variation in our cooking, is like putting a ping pong ball in our brain. And then, the salty hits that part of the brain, and the sweet hits that part of the brain, and the hot stuff hits this part of the brain. And it just keeps my brain occupied. So variation through flavor is one way, but we can achieve variation through 3 other ways. One is what we actually eat. So within vegetables, there's so much variation, right? A tomato is not kale, is not a sweet potato, is not a carrot. So just amongst vegetables, we've got variation of flavor. Then how we cut things is also variation. And we're going to learn about that today, especially with the asparagus. But you might cut something completely different one night that you did last night, and people won't even know what it is because you cut it differently. So variation by the way that things are cut, the way they look, will put that ping pong ball in our brain and make us more interested. And then the last way of variation that we need to think about when we're cooking with whatever we have is, how are we going to prepare it? Will it be cooked? Will it be raw? If it's cooked, is it grilled? Is it roasted? Maybe it's fermented. Maybe it's caramelized. All of those different things allow us to bring variation within a meal. So make sure that we work on creating all types of variation while we're putting together a dinner. And that you will find you will even get more appreciation from your food. All right. So we're going to do 3 recipes today. And we're going to do a Southwestern pasta that can be very adapted to what you have in your kitchen. We're going to be doing a spring asparagus with roasted sun-dried tomato. And we're also going to be doing the kids' favorite tahini roasted cauliflower. But before we start that, I want to start with a few what I call quickies. And these are things that just go real easy into, that will help us along the way, 2 fast dishes and 1 technique. And the first technique is how to cut an onion. Okay, I'm gonna take that overhead camera. Fong, you're on. So when I'm cutting an onion, the problem with onions is that they have acids which fly into the air, land in my eyes, and then I'm trying to cut, but I'm crying and I can't even see my own knife, right? So what we want to do is to think about a system to approach dicing an onion. And this is one, you'll never forget me after this, Houzz. So I'm gonna take my onion, I'm gonna cut off the top and I'm gonna cut off the bottom. I'm gonna take this little sticker that is always on there and peel it off and put that in the trash because these things don't biodegrade. So until one of your smart kids for their science project figures out how to make a sticker that biodegrades, until then, we need to just throw those into the waste. And then we'll put our scraps into our compost bucket on the side. I'm gonna take my onion, I'm gonna cut it in half, and I'm just gonna peel off the skin. Peel off that first layer, and it comes off easily. And now what I have, of course, is my half of my onion. Grab a towel. And I'm gonna take my knife, and I'm gonna slice into the onion lengthwise, or lengthwise, horizontally, right? Not all the way through, about 3/4 of the way through, so that I leave something in the onion to keep it together and back. And I'm going to continue to put cuts into that onion, remembering that the more the slice, the smaller the dice. Now I'm going to take my knife the opposite way. And again, an overhead shot is good. And I'll take my knife and I'll go in vertically now. So not all the way through, about 3/4 of the way through, remembering that the more the slice, the smaller the dice. What I'm left with is a checkerboard. So now all I need to take my knife is determine how big of a dice I want, and I just cut straight down on that onion. And when I get to the point where it has not been cut, I'll pop that part of the onion down. I'll cut that into what we would call julienne or plank. And then I would just dice the onion to my size. Now, why does that help? It helps because the less I touch an onion, the less those acids in the onion fly up in the air and land in my eyes. But also it helps me to achieve a relatively equal size of onion. And why is that important? Why should I aim for equal sizes of things that I am chopping? So that they cook at the same rate. Okay. Now salmon, I've been eating a lot of salmon, definitely good omega-3, omega-6, good protein. And I think you even have a little, there's a little ditty at the end of the recipe about this recipe. I always teach this recipe in the keto class because not only is it keto, it's just fantastic and easy. And it's a simple recipe, and it can go with any protein. So if you like chicken or if you like tofu, beef, even some beef, some thinly sliced beef or pork, this will work. And I take equal parts of mayonnaise, and it's mayonnaise of your choice. Right here, what do I have? Some regular old mayonnaise. There are many kinds of mayonnaises out there. Say a tablespoon of mayonnaise to a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Depends on how much salmon you have, of course. Maybe you like a little bit more mayo, maybe you like a little bit more mustard. And then just plop that guy on the top of your salmon. And then that guy goes under the broiler for maybe about 10 minutes, or you can put it in the oven. And what happens is your salmon, it poofs up like a souffle. And it's a fantastic way and a quick way to get into dinner. Here's another easy one. I call them quickies. I have some tofu here. I've got some tofu that I have covered in a cloth, and for about 20 minutes before class, and I put something heavy on top of it. And that allows the tofu to get rid of the water that's in it. And that's good because tofu is like a sponge. So if I have water in the tofu, it will prevent the taste of whatever I want to put on it. It will absorb whatever I put on it, but the more water I have, the less it will absorb. And then what I do is I reach back in that refrigerator for that can of barbecue sauce that you have, right? This one happens to have 0 sugar. It's a keto. Again, I've been doing a lot of keto lately. I'm teaching a keto class on Monday. I got this. I like this. It's cost plus imports. But it doesn't matter what kind of barbecue sauce you have. You usually have a little bit left. And interestingly, tofu is fantastic with a little barbecue sauce on it. So I'll do this the night before, right? Just cut the tofu in slabs, take some barbecue sauce, put it on the top, put it on the bottom. And then I let that sit if I've got the time overnight. If not, I can just put it on the grill, let it sit for half an hour if you can. And then I grill that up. And if you don't grill it too high, you get a beautiful crust on the outside and nice heated tofu on the inside. And the barbecue sauce really lends a nice flavor to even meat eaters for something like tofu. So a good, easy, and quick recipe as well. All right. Okay, so for the people that are cooking, I hope your oven is on. That's one of the pre things to do. If not, please turn your oven on to about 375 degrees. And what we're going to start with is our cauliflower. So this recipe is the tahini roasted cauliflower. Again, it's a kid's favorite. I learned it from a friend who had 3 kids, and it's just great. Kind of makes the cauliflower taste like French fries without frying them. And with using an ingredient that may be new to some people, it's called tahini. And tahini is peanut butter made from sesame seeds. So folks that may have allergies with nuts often do not have allergy with seeds. And it also has a very neutral flavor. So tahini is fantastic for making things creamy, whether it is you're making a vegan risotto or a salad dressing, or in this case, roasted cauliflower. I prepped some cauliflower as the recipe said, but I covered it with one of these beeswax containers or beeswax covers. This is the new thing. Maybe your kids are telling you should buy them, right? We all want to reduce plastic. So instead of covering things with plastic wrap, these beeswax covers last for a year, they say. And they're just really fun to use because if you're just trying to cover something, all you need to do is form it around your bowl. So they make great gifts if you're going to do anything for spring or birthdays coming up. I just saw them they're a lot more common now. You can find them at Trader Joe's, and you can find them the Container Store. I saw them a couple days ago. All you need to do is rinse them in cold water, and they'll last for about a year.
What do you use them for? It's like a cling wrap or just cover?
Yeah, cover. It takes the place of plastic wraps. So when we're trying to reduce plastic, which everyone is trying to do these days, if you find yourself, covering things in the refrigerator with plastic wrap, this is a perfect thing to use instead.
So it can go into microwave?
No, definitely not. In fact, you don't even want to wash it in hot water because it is made from beeswax.
Ah, got it. Okay.
So hot water will make, I don't know if it'll make the wax fall off, but I forgot one time when I was cleaning it and I was like, oh God, it definitely clean it with cold water. And it's just a perfect thing. And it's so nice to use. You're just like, it feels good to use it.
We'll check it out. Thank you.
Yeah. Now for the cauliflower, the first thing I want to turn you on to is when you're removing the stem, which I have here, don't throw the stem of the cauliflower away. A lot of cooking in the future is going to involve deglazing the pan. We're going to talk about that today. Deglazing the pan uses stock or liquid of your choice. And whether we're using a stock to deglaze a pan or whether we are using stock to make a beautiful soup, and whether we are making our own stock or we're buying stock, when we save vegetable bits that we usually just throw away, and instead pour that stock into a pot and put some of my vegetable scraps in that pot and let it steep like I was making my own stock, but now I'm kind of livening up store-bought stock. This is a perfect ingredient to do that with. You'll notice it doesn't even look that fresh, and that's because I used it in my stock for class today. So cooking is all about flavor and satisfaction. And we can certainly learn tips and tricks that help build flavor. And putting the vegetable scraps, the carrot peels, those onion skins, cauliflower, and you can just put that all in a bag. I leave it in my freezer. And when it comes time to use some stock, I'll take all that frozen out and I will liven up my stock. So keep the bottom of that cauliflower. And then I'm going to take my cauliflower, and of course, hopefully you've already done this. I'm just going to cut it into bite-sized pieces. So the pieces will depend. The bigger the pieces, the longer it will take to cook. And I have my cauliflower all cut up here. And then I'm going to take my tahini, which again is peanut butter made from sesame seeds, high in protein, B vitamins. And I'm going to take a half a cup of tahini and a half a cup of water with a full head of cauliflower. And that's usually enough tahini to get around and coat all your cauliflower. Give it a good stir. You want the consistency of a salad dressing. So not too thick. You can see how it's just dripping off. That's a good consistency. If it's too thick, add a little bit more water. If it's too thin, add a little bit of more tahini. And then we're going to take our tahini, our cauliflower, put it into our bowl. And what I like to do, I like to use my hands for this because cauliflower has a lot of holes and crevices and cracks that if I don't actually use my hand and kind of mix it in with, I'm going to miss some of the areas of my cauliflower. So at this point, let me wash my hands. Now we're going to keep things simple today by just adding either a little bit of soy sauce I can add for some salt. Oh, well, I should have added it before, actually. A little soy sauce I can add to this. I could have mixed it up earlier, but I forgot. I could just add salt to it, right? Regular salt. I might even look at my spice and say, oh, hey, I've got that Trader Joe's everyday seasoning that I don't have any idea what to do with. Trader Joe's has these great seasoning mixes. Pepper, you can add anything to it. You could add fresh herbs. You could add cumin, coriander. If you wanted to make it Asian, you could even put in some, maybe some ginger juice and some chopped garlic or garlic powder. So that tahini becomes a palette of options. You can add anything to it that you want, depending on your own personal choices. Or not. Simple. And then I'll take my sheet. I'm just going to spray a little bit of oil, spray oil onto it. And then we're going to place our cauliflower onto the sheet pan. And the thing I like to do is any place that the cauliflower is flat, I want to turn that down because caramelization is my goal here, that browning that happens when vegetables turn 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. We'll go over that more, the science of that later, but when carbohydrates do turn that temperature, caramelization or browning enhances and flavors become sweeter and flavors become more in depth, more deep. And that's what we're looking for. Caramelization is a great thing. We want to try to get it as much as possible with vegetables because it makes vegetables basically taste better. And it definitely makes them sweeter. And kids love that. So turn those flat edges down. And then you can just pop that into the oven, 375 for about 25 minutes. So that should be done at the end of class. Let's check our temperature. Okay. So simple and easy. And the thing about that recipe is, if you like it, you can use it with any vegetable. So some vegetables will cook faster. Some vegetables, because they're hard like a carrot, you might have to blanch or drop into boiling water for 30 seconds and then remove from the boiling water. Harder vegetables, you may have to blanch first. But taking that tahini and water sauce and putting it onto any vegetable in the oven is absolutely your option. In fact, then you can even start moving into different kinds of almond butters and peanut butters if you're eating those, and have the flexibility not only of vegetable, but of butter that you use.
Can we use like air fryers for this recipe?
Well, you know, I don't have an air fryer, and I haven't used one. And I think it would be interesting to use an air fryer actually, because I think if you did, for whomever is speaking, you would spray a little bit of oil on it and then just put it in the air fryer, right? That's how you would.
Yeah.
So
just afraid it might be too dry.
I don't know. So if you do it, let me know, because what you're going to get in the oven is same thing as with the salmon. And I guess I like this texture, right? Creamy is one of the, crunchy is very important, right? Creamy is very important, that variation. And you get the crunchiness of the vegetable and you get the creaminess of the sauce. And it's just, anytime I can get variation as an eater, I want that, because again, I'm putting that ping pong ball in my brain and I'm turning myself on by a variety of different techniques, flavors, textures, all in my mouth at the same time is exciting. All right. So our next recipe, we're going to prep our asparagus, and I'm going to take some sun-dried tomatoes. And I actually happen to have something I enjoy more now, and the overhead shot will lend you these, what we call semi-dried tomatoes. Now, if you do like sun-dried tomatoes, the semi-dried tomatoes are just moister. So I actually appreciate that better. And these two, they will already have a more stronger tomato flavor because they are semi or dried. But I can still lend more flavor to them by doing something very simple, which I love to do at this time of year, which is take whatever bottle of wine I happen to have in my refrigerator. And if you don't have wine or you don't drink wine, you could use something like an apple juice. And I'm just going to pour that over my sun-dried tomatoes. And all of a sudden, now I didn't have, the recipe says red wine, but I happen to have some white wine. Either one is fine. Again, you can use a juice if you choose to, but all of a sudden I have a very new type of seasoning that's quick and easy to add to any dish, not just asparagus. Often I'll do this the night before, but if I forget to do that, 30 minutes before, even 15 minutes will lend those tomatoes to absorb some of the juice of the wine and just bring a whole new level of variation and deliciousness to your meal. And for the asparagus, and it will be, we're just going to prep it right now. I want to show you what we were talking about, variation of cut, because again, this gives us great options and keeps our attention. So asparagus is in season now. We're moving out of the skinny asparagus, which is coming in, right? Well, we're probably skinny asparagus season for about the next couple weeks. And then asparagus has another season and it becomes fat asparagus. And then it even has another season way at the end of summer where it gets skinny again. If you're lucky, you get 2 or 3 seasons out of one plant. And you can operate them differently. But when they are getting to be fatter, which these are, what I like to do is to cut them in coins. And of course, with asparagus, what I want to do first is to find out where the stem of it might break naturally. And this is the part that I would put into the compost. I could, if I cut it thinly, I may still be able to eat it. But remember that anything, if it's too dense, right, it's going to get stuck on my teeth and then I'm not going to enjoy it as much. So put this in your stock pot. And then I'll line those asparagus up, and I'm just going to take I'm going to cut them in coins. And as you notice, actually, this is a good way to look at how we hold our knife as we're prepping our asparagus. So when I'm using a knife, I want to make sure that my fingers aren't out this way because, right? And we'll take the overhead shot if you can. I want to fold my fingers under, and I also want to make sure that my thumb isn't out there because, right? So the way that I want to do is fold my fingers in, thumb underneath, and that leaves me with a flat level here that becomes my block. So there's no way I could cut my fingers because they're stuck underneath, right? And so that's a good way to keep your fingers safe in the kitchen. And just cuts coins, I call coins. Try to aim for approximately the same size because they'll cook the same way. And I also like to let the tops be a little bit bigger. So these are our asparagus coins. And we'll just put those off to the side. Ready for saute in just a few minutes. Okay, last but not least is our pasta. And we'll start off talking pasta. Today, there's so many pastas out there. Oh my gosh, especially with doing this keto class on Monday. If you're against pasta, I want to introduce you to a few things. One, if you're against grain, you might consider what I'm using a lot, which is pasta made from beans. This particular pasta made from chickpeas. But there are so many different options. I also have some just zucchini noodles that I encourage. Zoodles is what they call them, right? You can buy your own zoodle maker, or you can buy these already zoodled, but good option for pasta too, and definitely adding more vegetable. But this is a product I've been playing around with since the keto class, and this is linguine made from hearts of palm. I just found out about this. It's got no carbohydrates in it, very low. I can't tell you what I think of the taste because this is from the class coming up. But if you've got any issue with pasta, there are so many options now at the store. Please go out and experiment. Since the last time I taught keto, right, so about 6 months ago, there are so many new products. So, definitely every once in a while, take a few more minutes. Allow yourself that time in the grocery store to explore around and see new options because there are just so many that are coming up. And the thing about this pasta dish, which is really fantastic, whatever kind of pasta or not you choose, because you don't even have to use pasta. You could use it for just protein, say chicken strips and vegetables. We make it beforehand. So if you're following the recipe, the pasta's already been made. This is a great tip if you're having dinner and you're serving pasta and you're having guests over. I used to work at the Left Bank, the Fleet Street Cafe, 2 restaurants around here that I worked at, both in Menlo Park. And, any restaurant that you work, they don't make your pasta fresh unless it's fresh pasta. Pasta is made the night before, and then all you do is heat it up. And that's to make cooking easier, right, for the kitchen. So that's a great tip. You can always make your pasta before your meal and then just either put it in boiling water at the end or saute it like we're going to and not have to worry that the pasta is cooked al dente. For the sauce, I'm going to make mine in a jar just because it's easy to shake and it's fun. And this is a great sauce. I have made this recipe so many times for catering. It's very different, so people are not used to it. And I think it may wow them, as it has for years for my guests and clients. So we start off making the sauce with some kind of vegetable broth, chicken broth. You can use beef broth. The recipe says 3 tablespoons. And it doubles very well. So just add your stock into your bowl or jar. I'm going to use some olive oil. And in this particular, I'm going to use an extra virgin olive oil that's a little bit nicer and more expensive. I'm using that and putting in 2 tablespoons of olive oil because I'm not going to add much heat to this sauce. I can use my nice quality, more expensive olive oils when I'm not using a lot of heat, because extra virgin olive oil has a smoke point of 375 to 425. But the fancier olive oils with more color have a lesser smoke point, anywhere from maybe about 325, 350. So we don't want to use high heat, and often we don't want to even cook with those good olive oils unless we're making a salad dressing or doing something quick like we're going to be doing in this particular recipe. I've got some lime juice I'm going to add, 2 tablespoons, and certainly you could use lemon juice if you wanted to, but I like the combination of flavors with this. And these great squeezers do a terrific job. You usually get a tablespoon of juice out of your lemons and lime. Lemons a little bit more, but usually a tablespoon. So you can kind of just take that for granted per side. So 2 tablespoons. And then we're going to add some soy sauce. The soy sauce I'm using here is a light soy sauce because I'm interested in reducing the amount of sodium. But what I want to encourage you about soy sauce is to remember, while I'm adding my 2 tablespoons into the recipe, that soy sauce is like wine. So you can have very simply made soy sauce like Kikkoman that's made in 24 hours with a chemical called hexane. Or you can use soy sauce that's been cured a year, like I used to do at one of the schools I went to, Vega Macrobiotic Study Center, which was a Japanese culinary school. And we made soy sauce that fermented a year. So longer fermentation, better taste. Pay for what you get. Soy sauce is one of those things. I used it all. No, I had a bottle of soy sauce for $26 that I got at that China Live place in San Francisco. It was good. Better, more money, usually better taste, hopefully. All right. We're going to do some chipotle pepper. Chipotle pepper. Does anyone know what a chipotle pepper is? Can't really turn it because it's open. I'll give you the overhead look here, overhead shot if you want. Chipotle pepper is a roasted jalapeno. Now, this is a hot, but not that hot. And of course, as I'm taking the jalapeno out of the chipotle jalapeno out of the can, I'm going to scrape the seeds away because the hottest part of the pepper is the seeds. No. Hottest part of pepper is the vein. It's the thing that keeps the seeds to the pepper. So if you are interested in removing some excess heat, take away the seeds and especially take away the vein. If you are interested if you don't like heat, you don't have to add chipotle pepper. You can eliminate this, or you can use certainly any kind of pepper if you do like hot. If you don't want to, if you forgot to get chipotle, add some sriracha. We're going to add our sweetener of choice. And I say of choice because there's so many sweeteners now and there's so many issues with sugar. We have a sugar blues class. My new thing, because I am trying to reduce my carbohydrate, not from my vegetables and grains, but from my junk food, my sweets, and my alcohol. I'm trying to cut down on those. And so I'm using, interestingly enough, this new products, different things, monk fruit. There's something called Swerve. These are erythritol or fermented sugars. And they are very, very similar to brown sugar. And I'm looking for, here's my brown sugar. So this is the brown sugar, right? This is regular brown sugar. And then this is the Swerve. So it's very similar in texture and in look. And what I like to do, because the swerve, no carbohydrates, has a kind of a minty experience to it. Often what I'll do with recipes is I'll half and half it. So this recipe, you could eliminate the sweet if you wanted to, but instead of adding a tablespoon of brown sugar, I'm going to add a half a tablespoon of brown sugar and a half a tablespoon of swerve. If you try these new sugars, they're not like saccharin. They don't have the digestive issues that other fruit, the fruit alcohol, the naturally fermented sugars did. We had more digestive problems with saccharin than we do these new naturally fermented fruit alcohol sugars, erythritol. But if you choose to use them, I encourage you to start small, do less. You have to get used to the difference of experience in the mouth, but it's still sweet, and they work really well. Now our thickener is going to be some cornstarch or arrowroot. Arrowroot is more of a natural version of cornstarch. Cornstarch, of course, is just the starch that we remove from the corn, and then we turn it into a thickener, and that's a teaspoon into that sauce.
Could we have a look at that brand?
And I'm going to use a little ground cumin. My best bet, if I had more time, is to toast those seeds in a dry skillet for about 30 seconds. But because we don't have time today, I'll just add about a teaspoon of ground cumin. And then we have our garlic, chopped garlic that we'll add into that, 4 cloves. And then some cilantro. Let me find my cilantro. Now with cilantro, this is also an interesting thing. Where is the best flavor in the cilantro? Where do you find the most flavor in the cilantro? From the stems. It's not from the leaves. So definitely you want a mixture of both. You want leaves, you want stems, you want both in there. And of course with cilantro, that just makes it a lot easier to cook, right? So many people don't use herbs because they think it takes a long time to cook. They don't. You can see my cilantro on the ground. No, there's still all the cilantro on the ground. And then I'm just going to take it and take it up. All right. So let's get our stuff cooking. All right, I've got 2 pans for you. I've got a non-stick skillet that I'm going to use for our asparagus. We'll start heating that guy up. And I've got a stick skillet or a non-stick skillet that I'm going to use for our pasta. And for the pasta, what I'll do is I'll just put a little spray oil to keep it from heating up. I mean, just sticking. And I'm going to add some pasta to the pan. And I'm going to add some of these zucchini noodles to the pan too. Now the protein that I'm going to eat, in this you can add any protein that you would choose. The protein that I'm going to put into my saute is a protein called seitan. Seitan, we can look at the overhead shot. Seitan is a wheat meat or a gluten, and it is a vegetable source, right? It's made from wheat. It has a wonderful texture that's very meaty, and it comes in different flavors. So you can find it more now. I don't know if it's at Trader Joe's, but you can find it at Safeway, definitely at Whole Foods. And it comes in different, it's ground, like ground beef, or strips, like you see here. The flavor, again, is kind of, it's got a good texture like beef. But you know, this pasta, you can add anything. If you made chicken yesterday and you've got leftover chicken, put chicken in. If you had, pot roast, put some beef in. Doesn't matter. And we'll start heating that up too. Okay. So, Houzz, vegetables have secrets. Vegetables have secrets, and the secret of vegetables is that they're sweet. And you say vegetables are sweet. Is that onion sweet? No, raw onion. But once I cut that onion up, as we did in the beginning of class, and I put it on the heat, and I start to saute, what happens? it becomes brown. It caramelizes. It becomes sweeter by science. It's only science. And the science is that once those carbohydrates reach 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, they become alive. So what temperature does water boil at? 100 Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit, but secrets come out at 330 Fahrenheit, 166-ish Celsius. Where do I get 330 degrees in the kitchen? Saute, broil, grill, oven. Oven, which is why our roasted tahini is going to be browned on the bottom because of caramelization. 375 is the oven. And here we're going to get caramelization from our asparagus. I got a pan again that does not have a nonstick coating because I want things to stick. And I'm going to use some extra virgin olive oil and add my asparagus to that pan. Now, the issue with the stove calendar, with the stove camera, sometimes it might go off because of steam. So hopefully if it does, it'll go back on again. I want that vegetable to take it away from the stove so it doesn't. I want that vegetable to start browning and leaving what they call fond, F-O-N-D, at the bottom of the pan. That fond is the dehydrated gold or the culinary essence. And you want to pick that fond up, not put it down the drain after you're done. You want to pick that fond up by the process of deglazing. Now I can deglaze with stock and I can deglaze with wine, but you can deglaze with any liquid. So if I'm cooking for kids, maybe apple juice. And if I'm drinking a beer, deglaze with beer. Do you like olives? Do you do anything with the juice in the jar? Deglaze with olive juice. Because what happens as those vegetables cook is they leave this brown stuff on the pan, right? You can see it there. And so what I want to do is not a lot of, I'm going to take the overhead shot so I don't turn the camera off. Not a lot of stock, but enough with a flat spoon to pick up that fond. And wherever that fond is, with a flat spoon, pick up that fond and let those vegetables caramelize. In the back here, we're doing good stuff with our vegetable, seitan, zucchini. I can throw any vegetables I have, right? So I happen to have some kale. I even have some carrots, right? All you're trying to do here is just heat things up, because the minute you add that sauce, you're going to have cooking and thickening. Let's look back at our asparagus. I've got my sun-dried tomatoes that I'm going to put in here. They give me some wine, and the wine will help deglaze. How about my sauce? Make sure to shake it again because that cornstarch has fallen to the bottom. And we'll add I think that's my, oh good, it stopped. The fire alarm. I usually move it. So look what happens here. that sauce thickens up immediately. And so it is a perfect dish to make the sauce beforehand.
Laura, I'm sorry, but it looks like the top and camera stopped working.
Yeah, see, if it gets too hot, it does that. But we're going to play it up now. We're playing up now. We'll show you what's going on. All right. So we have our beautiful asparagus. And when I dish this out, I want to make sure, for the most part, that what's on my pan, that none of this brown stuff, if I still have brown stuff on the pan, yeah, I'll take the overhead shot, that I can still deglaze and pick that up, right? Don't throw out the fond. The fond is the dehydrated gold, the culinary essence. And for my pasta, I've got a nice mix of pasta, vegetables, protein, and flavor. This sauce has a ton of flavor. So what you're going for when you plate is you want height. Houzz. Don't put, when you're plating something, you want it to look nice, you want to build it up. Don't flatten it out. Try to build it up. And I've got a little bit of green onion garnish here. And I also have some goat cheese that melts in. All of these ingredients, all of these are optional, right? If you don't like goat cheese, you leave it out. I think I also have pumpkin seeds on the recipe, which are delicious. And then let's look at our cauliflower, which should be good. Okay, so our cauliflower, if we take the overhead shot, we can see that it is coming along fine. And we'll just take a fork and you can go into it. And if it goes in easy, it's good. If you like it a little browner, you can put it under the broiler, loosen it with a spatula, and then we'll just put it alongside our pasta. Ooh, and see, we got some nice caramelization on the bottom of that. And the smell, oh, the smell is fantastic. So, what did we make for you today? We made in Cap our Dijon Dillionaise, I think I call it, salmon. We made some barbecue tofu. We learned how to cut an onion. And then for your eating enjoyment, we have for you our beautiful pasta dish with a side of tahini roasted cauliflower. And then we all have our delicious semi-dried asparagus with semi-dried tomato with caramelized asparagus. And of course, the lesson there was caramelization happens at 330 degrees, 166 Celsius. And we want to bring those secrets, that sweetness out. Now to finish this off, we might take a little bit of flake salt and spread it on, because flake salt, because it's flaky, it gives a salty plus crunch, that variation I was talking about. Or you could always also, what's a nice thing to also include is a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil on anything that you make. But today we have so much flavor in this meal, we don't need an additional little drizzle of flavor. So I am happy to answer any questions. And how did the cooking go? I think we had one gentleman cooking. How is he doing? Is he still cooking?
Yeah,
I'd like
still
to
cooking.
see the final result.
Yeah, so it's a great, the sauce can be made and stored either in the freezer or the refrigerator. In the refrigerator, 5 days. In the freezer, you can freeze, 6 months. If you are going to make the sauce beforehand, I encourage you to not add the garlic or the cilantro until right before you're going to add it, just because it will store better. But again, this sauce is a perfect sauce for anything that you're going to be making, not just pasta. Certainly great sauce for sauteed meats, great sauce for rice and fried rice dishes. So happy to take any questions if anyone has questions today from Houzz.
Regarding the spicy thing, if I want more spicy, do you have any recommendation?
Spicy as in hot or spicy as in flavor?
Flavor. You mentioned the jalapeno is not that spicy, but I'm a spicy lover. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's not that spicy to me. And actually what's interesting about jalapenos is they're not as spicy as they used to be. A lot of the vegetables you may have noticed in the grocery store are so much bigger than they were when we were kids. And that's because they're basically growing them bigger to make more money. But the problem with growing vegetables bigger is they're really growing bigger with water. And that means you're eating like bloated produce, and that water will take away the flavor of your vegetables. So that's one of the reasons why better to buy vegetables from the farmer's market. Now, spicy, of course, can come in many different sizes and shapes, from one spicy fan to another. You know, definitely the sriracha. I've got a coconut sriracha in my refrigerator. And I definitely have, if you're not using sambal olek, which is also a really good spicy and a little bit more crunchy option to sriracha. The trendy spice that's not as hot, so better for people who might, you know, we can introduce people who don't like a lot of hot, is what they call chili crunch. It had its heyday in the New York Times. I'd have to get mine out, but it's garlic. It's crunchy garlic along with pepper flakes. That's fantastic. And, you know, other than that, for the sauce, this sauce, because of the lime juice, because of the chipotle, because of the soy, and the garlic and the cilantro, you are packed with flavor. I don't think you're going to need any more. In fact, often when I present this particular meal, you know, remember, of course, that you can do any of these dishes without an entire meal of all three dishes, because there is a lot of flavor. But if we look at the flavor profile as a whole, our pasta is extreme flavor, and we want that. But then we've got, and it's got crunch and it's got texture, but our tahini cauliflower, well, that is creamy and soft. Let's actually, let me get a fork. So then we have, oh, I got a fork right here. Then we have that balance of creamy with crunchy and kind of a more blander flavor with extreme flavor. So those will go well together. And then, you know, the sun-dried tomato, if you get the dried tomato, it will be more flavorful, because why? Dry means lack of water. Lack of water means more flavor. The semi-dried will not be as strong, but that's actually why I like the semi-dried better, because I think the sun-dried tomato, for me, for the most part, is too much flavor. The combination of all these three together, if it doesn't make your mouth go, wow, I'd be surprised. In fact, often, as I say, I encourage people to try breaking the dish up, you know, breaking the three dishes up. And remember that, again, just like with the pasta, just like with the tahini and cauliflower, any vegetable can be used for this easy seasoned sun-dried tomato dish. So everything is interchangeable on this recipe, that there are these three recipes that we just learned. Let me taste the cauliflower.
That's great.
It's creamy outside, it's creamy inside, and it's really going to be good next to something crunchy, which could be my pasta, because I've still got some carrots that got some bite to it. But it would also pair well with a salad, right? So think about that variation. Variation of flavor, variation of texture, variation of size of what we cook, how we cut things, and variation of the actual thing itself. It's a vegetable. We've got, you know, all kinds of if you're making a bowl, for instance, you want to have different types of vegetables that are different, because a carrot is not celery and a celery is not corn. And those things together bring their own variation and keep our brains intrigued. Meat comes with natural nitrogen, and nitrogen on our tongue is naturally more flavorful to carbohydrates, which don't have that effect on our tongue, which is why with carbohydrates, we want to learn to heighten them through the process of, one, caramelization. And so with vegetables, we learn more about seasonings because they don't naturally come with as much flavor as meat does. And that's simply science. It's carbohydrates versus nitrogen. Any other questions?
I do. For the tahini cauliflower, does that work well with broccoli?
You know, with broccoli, I think the same thing. I've never tried it with broccoli, but let's consider the texture of cauliflower to broccoli. You know, pretty similar, right? Especially if you would take the skin off the broccoli, that outer layer of the stalk, because that's really tough. You're kind of in the same ballpark, right? The stalk of the cauliflower is similar to the stalk of the broccoli, as compared to carrot, which is just harder and could use what we were saying, a blanch, about a minute or 30 seconds in boiling water. 30 seconds is better than a minute. We don't want to go too long. You're not trying to cook the carrot. You were trying to bust through the first cell walls so that cooking becomes more in balance with the technique I'm using in the oven. So I don't, you know, I want the outside to be browned, but I don't want the inside to be completely raw. So in order to achieve that balance, I might blanch it for 30 seconds. I think broccoli would be a good thing with the tahini, but remember, broccoli also has those florets. So make sure that you're making sure that the vegetable's coated so that it protects the vegetable from burning in the oven.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I also have a question that's not related to this particular those particular dishes.
Yeah.
When, like last year when pandemic started, I remember I cooked so much at home, and oftentimes the cooking will just take so long. So I wonder if you have any suggestions in how to speed up.
Cooking takes too long, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, each cooking could be
absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Well, the first thing is a sharp knife. That's the first thing. Make sure your knife is sharp. If we want to, I can go over at least how to hone your knife. I don't know if the Zoom's going to shut off at 5:15, which is when, so we'll see if it automatically shuts off. But make sure you have a sharp knife. If you don't have the speed that you want. The second thing is make sure that your kitchen is set up to assist cooking. I mean, I was a private chef for years, and I cooked in very wealthy people's very large kitchens. And I can't tell you how often you couldn't find anything. Everything was like buried underneath. And the big kitchens, I mean, my kitchen's pretty small, but they've got more drawers, the stuff you don't even know where it is. So just make sure that things are accessible. I know people who don't want anything on their counters at all. And I think that's okay. But when it comes to cooking, I actually want things pretty accessible. So try to make your equipment accessible. And then it comes down to recipes. And again, if I, in basically, 40 minutes, made technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dishes, you want recipes that go quick and fast and easy. And that is just a matter of finding them. And I think what's important about eating, and whether we're in quarantine or not, is you have to increase, everyone, and Laura too, has to increase the amount of dishes that they just make quick. You need 10, 15, 20 dishes that basically go together as fast as these dishes do. And quick cooking is another class that we teach. Easy seasoning, the system we learn here with the vegetables, but then easy seasonings that go together. That whole technique is in the quick cooking class. There are ways that you can speed up the process, but I'll tell you what, the more you know about cooking, the faster, more creative, more delicious your food and cooking will be, which means most people haven't had any education in food whatsoever. I would assume this is the first cooking class that a few of you have taken. Usually when I teach in corporate, and we used to go back in the days, we used to go to the inside. About a quarter of the class had taken any culinary class at all. So we can't expect to be operating well, efficiently, and fast unless we have some techniques and tools to pull from, and we have a sharp knife. So I've been in culinary school, Culinary Institute of America, School of Natural Cookery, Vega Macrobiotic Study Center since the late 80s, no, early 90s. And I still have a lot to learn. So definitely expose yourself to techniques and systems that can allow you to cook faster.
Thank you.
Okay, Houzz. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming to my kitchen tonight.